Major developments in the Daniel Penny trial. On Friday, the judge dismissed the top charge against Penny after the jury deadlocked on whether he was guilty of manslaughter. The Marine vet is accused of using a deadly chokehold against Jordan Neely on a subway car. Of course, it happened last year.
Now jurors will consider the lesser charge of criminally negligent homicide. What's next in the case? Defense attorney and former prosecutor Arthur Aidala is here with us this morning. Nice to have you back.
Good morning. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
So what are your thoughts?
So not only did my office try to find a case similar to this one, but so did the defense team who I've spoken to and the judge and the prosecutor. Guys, they could not find a case in the history of New York where while a jury was deliberating, the prosecutor asked the judge to dismiss the top count so that then they could deliberate on the lower count.
Did it mean like they really didn't think that count should have been there from the beginning? They were just, you know, kind of throwing it out there to see what would happen?
To your point, Rosanna, that's what the fear is going forward, is that this will set a precedent so that prosecutors keep doing that. All right, we'll just throw a little higher count, and then if the jurors can't get to the lower count, we'll tell the judge to dismiss it. The defense objected on Friday. I believe they're going to renew their objection today, saying, Judge...
They want a mistrial?
They want a mistrial, saying, Judge, this is crazy. Like, this has never happened in the history of New York. All of a sudden, in this case...
Is this grounds for a mistrial?
Oh, it could be. In other words, well, it normally is. So just so you know, the jurors are told, look at manslaughter in the second degree and don't look at criminally negligent homicide until you get a decision on that. So they're saying we can't get a decision on that. It should be a mistrial. Instead, here, for the first time ever, the prosecutor says, Judge, just throw out the top count now, and let's make sure, kind of, they don't say this, we get a conviction on criminally negligent homicide.
So in some ways, some people have said that it was a basic strategy by the prosecution to ask for this particular
I don't give them that much credit.
This one to be dismissed. But now they still have to look at this other charge. And they were deadlocked on this initial one. What are your thoughts looking at it here?
Okay, so the very last substantive note they turned in on Friday was they needed some clarification on self-defense. What does a reasonable person mean in the terms of self-defense? If there's self-defense on manslaughter in the second degree, there's also self-defense on criminally negligent homicide. So possibly this is going to create a verdict on criminally negligent homicide, or the same people who are saying he was acting in self-defense on manslaughter in the second degree are going to say he was acting in self-defense on criminally negligent homicide, and we may be in the same exact position.
Does this case in some way set a precedent of what may be possible in terms of self-defense, what it means in the city subway system from here going forward?
Dan, you may be a little young for this, but Rosanna and I lived through the era of Bernie Getz.
Yeah, Bernie Getz.
This is all about Bernie Getz. Yeah. For folks who are young, it's the subway guy. He's on the subway. Kids come to rob him. He takes out a gun and he shoots them.
Well, he thinks they're going to rob him.
They think they're going to rob him. One had a screwdriver, I believe. Yeah. This is 30 years ago. And they created the new self-defense standard, which is, did that person feel like they were being threatened? And the objective test, would a reasonable person in that situation feel like they were being threatened? And that's what these jurors in the Penny case asked for. What is the definition of a reasonable person? And the definition, I got to be honest with you guys, is common sense, you know, like a normal person under those circumstances. I would say in Daniel Penny's case, a normal person who was riding the subway and someone's screaming and yelling and they're a large person saying, I'm ready to go back to jail, I'm ready to rob people, would feel threatened.
Let me ask you something. What about the jurors feeling threatened? There are people outside of the courthouse who were threatening to protest, and not in a good way.
Yeah, listen, the New York State court officers do a fantastic job. You realize I've been there for some very high-profile cases of trying to keep those people at bay. During the Trump trial, they kept them in the park across the street, really kept them far away. So, I mean, the goal is so the jurors should never be exposed to that.
Wanted to ask you, just changing gears here, here very quickly. Overnight, we got some breaking news that Jay-Z has now been accused in a lawsuit that is tied to Diddy about raping a 13-year-old girl many, many years ago. When you saw this case, when you saw this part of it, what are your thoughts about it?
Well, when I read it, I loved his response, Jay-Z. He's like, I'm not being shaken down. This is and he's right. Like, this is a new formula. It's a type of extortion. And he's like, it breaks my heart that my kids are not going to have to deal with these accusations. But that never happened. If that would have happened, you should be in criminal court, not where people go to jail, not in civil court. And he's holding strong that he's just going to fight it to the end.
Do you think that there is going to be any evidence or proof? I mean, does that have to be a part of this in order for it to...
it's going to be the young person. Well, she was young at the time. He was 13. It's going to be the evidence. That's going to be it. It's
the testimony as opposed to physical evidence.
Correct.
I mean, that's going to be the key.
If there was real physical evidence, Jay-Z's right. They should be going to a prosecutor or some law enforcement. But it's just going to be her word. And, I mean, Jay-Z really went after the lawyer as well.
Yes.
I've looked at his tactics, and he doesn't know who he's messing with. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm going to take this guy out from Texas. So he came out strong. And you know what? I think that's helpful for society to say we're not going to be shaken down just by the words on a piece of paper.
All right, let's talk about Harvey Weinstein, who is your
Anything else you want to do? You want to talk about the Giants, the Jets? What else?
No, let's not talk about that,
Harvey
please.
Weinstein, got to talk about that. Is he still in the hospital?
He's in the hospital. Yeah, I mean, he's a sick man who's... It's very interesting because my law firm is blessed to be in the news often, but we filed a lawsuit against Rikers Island and the city about Harvey Weinstein's treatment in prison. And of all the cases I've ever been involved in, I've never gotten so much feedback from other people saying, us too, okay, please help, please help.
How is Harvey Weinstein? Is he very sick? Where?
I mean, he's got, look, he told me I could tell you, especially you, Rosanna, that I could tell you this. I mean, he has cancer. He was not getting treated for the cancer in Rikers Island. They did a blood test based on our lawsuit, and his white blood cell counts were horribly low. They transferred him to Bellevue in the hospital. That's where he is right now, being treated. I mean, I talk to him almost every day. He's doing the best he can. He has a lot to live for, and that's what he's fighting for.
All right, one more thing. Speaking of living for, there's lots of rumors that you might be appointed the U.S. Attorney in Brooklyn. Is that something that you would consider?
Oh, I mean, I think anytime you get a phone call from the President of the United States, especially under these circumstances with
Did you get a phone call? Did you get a phone call from?
No, I haven't got a phone call. But if I did, I would obviously be, you know, it would be the honor of a lifetime.
So where are these rumors coming from? You got no phone calls from anybody in the administration?
No, I didn't say that. I just had to get a phone call from the President of the United States.
Okay, so but somebody in his administration reached out to you.
Hypothetically, it's been confirmed that I'm under consideration, and that would be, you know, I'm not...
Could you afford to do that?
I'm lucky that my wife has been my law partner for 2 decades now, so I said, honey, are you okay to support us? But all kidding aside, the particular position covers Suffolk County, Nassau, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island. It's very, very important. And, you know, Mr. Trump, and right now, the energy around his transition team is amazing, and it would be amazing to be part of that team to help keep New Yorkers, and those are the places where we live. That's where our families are, Suffolk, Nassau, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island. To keep us safe would be spectacular.
And a lot of those cases have national implications as well, too. I mean, some of the cases...
I know, but I'm not worried about the national stuff. I'm worried about keeping my parents safe, my sister and brother-in-law safe, my wife, my kids. That's what matters.
Thank you.
Right, Dan?
Yeah.
You got it.
I want to keep you off the streets like I saw you the other morning with that
Wait a minute,
homicide.
hold on a second, hold on a second.
With bad stories. I want to see you on there with good stories.
I just had the camera in the microphone.
Arthur Aidala, everybody.